Welcome to Dr. Jeffrey Roth's Looking Good and Feeling Great podcast, live from Las Vegas, with his co-host, Darrell Craig Harris.
Hi, folks. It's Dr. Jeffrey Roth here, your board-certified plastic surgeon in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we are back at it again.
They said it wouldn't last.
So, I've heard that a lot, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah, I think we're actually into our third season, which is crazy. I guess it's actually funny. The season thing, I had a discussion with our friend Dean Bushala,
yes,
a TV producer, and I was like, "What exactly is a season?" He's like, "It's really whatever you want it to be. It could be 3 episodes, it could be 10,
right?"
So
yes, hopefully this won't be a docudrama or missing persons or something like that. So yeah, my wife, I love her to death. My beautiful blushing bride. She loves watching those How to Murder Your Husband shows. right before we go to bed.
Nice.
So yeah. But it gets worse. So she says she's watching these things. She's like, no, you're doing it all wrong. You got to get rid of the teeth and you got to get rid of the fingerprints. I'm like, huh?
Oh yeah.
So yeah. I just told her, just make it look like an accident.
I know. My wife actually likes those shows too.
Yeah. It scares me.
It's a whole thing. So today we're going to actually talk about creating realistic expectations for breast reduction.
Sure.
And I've actually filmed some of those with you, and it's amazing what you do.
Yeah. It's some of our favorite patients, favorite outcomes, and some of our happiest patients are the breast reduction patients. Mm-hmm. Some of them feel better, not all, but some feel better in the recovery room, especially those folks that I think a lot of it's mass and it is weight, but it's also the pendulousness.
Right.
And if you can pick up the pendulousness, it's kind of like if you have a backpack and the straps are too long and you go ahead and put the straps where they're supposed to be and put it back on your chest. Oh, that's where it's supposed to be. Right. I think that goes a long way with the shoulder strapping and neck pain and back pain. And I've had neurosurgeons actually refer patients to me and say, no, you don't need a spine surgery. You need to get these big breasts off.
Right.
And so that's that. The corollary to that also is most of my spine surgeons, if you have back problems or what, they said if they can get their patients to walk in water, because some of them can't run, obviously you can't walk. But
right.
If you can walk in water, that's a really big help as far as that goes. So
yeah, and oftentimes too, those ladies have had issues maybe in adolescence and in school because they developed
Absolutely.
early, they were being made fun of. Sure. There's a whole psychological component.
Oh,
right?
sure. No, I had a patient the other day. She says, yeah, no, I was, flat as a board till I was 14, and then somebody flipped a switch and I woke up with these things. And I'm just like, really? So yeah, and it's a big, as you know, it's a big, arc of estrogen, progesterone, et cetera, and genetics and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, if they get really too big, it can really be a hindrance of folks, both, socially, interactively, all of that. So yeah, so we do a bunch of these, and by and large, they're really some of our happiest patients. There's different ways to do things, of course, and some guys and gals do it different than I do and get really good results. The main thing is and this goes not just for breast reduction patients, but also patients with tubular breast issues, or one side's a D and one side's a A,
which is very common, right?
Which is common. First of all, everybody's off a little bit, right? And women know this because they put them in bras, and this is my better one, my worst one, bigger, small. So all of it. So one eye is always higher than the other one nostril's higher than the other one. I tell people all the time that if anybody is perfect by measurements, I'm calling the Air Force because they're an alien and they weren't born here. So somebody got to check that out. So having said all that, folks look at the websites. We've had patients from everywhere, but they want to see themselves. The tall girls want to see the tall girls. The short girls want to see the short girls. And oftentimes people feel like, gosh, I'm the only one that has this. And they look at the website. Oh, wait a minute. That's me. I see me there. Yeah. And so we've been very, very fortunate that a lot of our patients have given us permission for befores and afters, and we're able to share those for education, and so that people come in and then we actually talk about things.
Some folks think that I don't know how am I actually going to fix this? It's so severe, whatever. And then when you go onto the sites before and after, right. I mean, that's pretty amazing, actually.
So yeah, plastic and reconstructive surgery, it's one of those things that really drew it to me, that you can really make a big appreciable difference. So the basics of breast reduction, of course, are, am I a candidate, right? So basically is, are you healthy enough for surgery? We want to get people off of smoking. Because again, facelifts, breast lifts and reductions, and then tummy tucks all put tissue on tension. And tension is the enemy of good wound healing. And so smoking is terrible for those surgeries because when you smoke or vape or chew any nicotine, so I'll clarify that too, because some people, I don't smoke when I vape. Basically, it's all bad because it's a vasoconstrictor, so it doesn't get the blood flow to where you need it. And so you want to be off nicotine products. Okay, fine. They come in, we take a look, we measure, et cetera, and we kind of see what the game plan is. So what typically is and one of the questions I ask, which is for me a very telling question, is, okay, what size are you now and what size do you want to be? So some girls come in and they say, well, geez, doc, I'm an F and I want to be an A. Okay, so I'm like, okay, well, wait a minute. So what you want is a mastectomy with a free nipple graft. Yeah. Okay. So those are very rare to do. And that's a whole different thing than a breast reduction. It's more of a breast amputation.
Because most people, they just want symmetry. And,
So most folks are in your triple Ds, and again, it gets weird after D, right? You get double D, triple D, F, whatever that might be. And most folks want to be, they've had breasts their entire life, so they don't want to be a B. Some folks want to be a B because they're done with them and they're over them. Yeah. But most folks want to say, well, I'm a full C, small D. Okay. So that's kind of a telling for me what they really want, how much they've thought about it, et cetera, et cetera. So, and what I say is, well, look, we can be aggressive, but we have to be safe. And what I mean by that is the nipple areola complex. And if you want pictures of this, you can go to the website and all that, because we have
JJRothMD.com.
Yeah, so we have cartoons about all this. So, but basically so the nipple areola complex. Now, we don't take the nipple areola complexes off and staple them back on later, right? They're always attached to the patient for blood supply and nerve supply, right? Okay. So what you do is you make a block of tissue or an island of tissue, if you will, right? And that island should be 10 centimeters by 10 by 10 or 8 by 8. It depends on who you read. Okay. So, but there's a block of tissue, an island that nipple areola complex is going to sit on. Okay. Everything outside of that block of tissue, medially towards the sternum, the midline, superiorly and laterally can leave. So that's where the reduction, that's where you take the breast tissue off, is taken off. Okay. Now, we leave the skin obviously on, but someone's going to get trimmed. So we go ahead and we make an incision, which looks like a keyhole. So we take off that extra skin too. Now, the flaps, these things that are going to move around, usually have to be about a centimeter and a half thick themselves to get enough blood supply and keep that happy. So bottom line is even if I want to be most aggressive, I have to leave a certain amount behind so that it's going to be safe. The nipple areola complex is going to live. The tissue, the skin and such are going to live, and you're going to get nice scars, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a minimum of tissue that has to be left there. Right. So that's why I say, hey, you may wake up with, a C plus, and most folks are like, okay, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. You just kind of have to give them the overview of what they're really expecting.
Well, because, we've played this game thousands of times before, and this is the first time these folks have played this game. And so we like to go ahead and educate and talk about it. And again, it drives my practice manager bananas, because I'll sit there and talk. Yeah. And, we block out, 45 minutes for a new consult, et cetera, because we want to hear about that. I want to hear what's going on in your house. Are you going to go ahead and lift up, 6-month-old babies? Or you're going to need grandma to come and help you, for that.
Right.
What do you? So
the recovery. I mean, we've talked about before, but the recovery is super
very,
important.
very important. So having said all that, is then we see, hey, are you a candidate, et cetera, et cetera? Is everything lining up for a good result? And then go from there. So, and then we follow people up, and we see folks typically at 3 days and 7 days, 3 and 6 weeks, 3 and 6 months. And for us, pride ourselves on being as close as the phone.
What would be the time frame for considered to be full recovery? Would it be 6 months, a year?
I tell all my cases, like, okay, this is going to be a year relationship, a year program. Whether it's eyelid surgery, whether it's breast surgery, whatever it might be, because the body's going to heal up on the time frame the body wants to heal up. I wish I did, but I don't have a magic wand to make things faster.
Right. And everybody has different physiology.
Right. And so I for example, we make incisions, et cetera, et cetera. Those incisions are going to be most red usually at about 4 months and less red at about 10 months to a year. At 4 months, the collagen is disorganized, et cetera, et cetera. It's a little bit red. It's a little bit, and again, that's kind of a time frame that people can kind of get back into. I mean, we live in a lifestyle now that everything's drive-through, and so right. I've actually had people say, "Hey, doc, can I get these on Friday and go back to work on Monday?" Like, yeah, no, and so basically it's still surgery. We still take it seriously. Tell patients all the time, I'm a nice guy, but I took a knife to you. You know what I mean?
Right. And you also want to protect your investment. Right?
Well, 100%. And people that come back for the redos, and that may be 7 years later, maybe 12 years later, maybe how many years later, they will not infrequently say, yeah, this time I'm going to take it slow like you told me to. This time I'm not going to go, skiing at day, 8.
Yeah, because you don't want to have to go back and fix stuff because then you have to restart the recovery.
Right. And people, the problem is people feel better now with modern technology and everything else. People are like, man, I feel great. Well, you feel great, but your body's not ready yet. And so that's kind of the fight that we have, and especially my athletes, and we take care of a lot of athletes. 3 of our patients have been on the cover of Sports Illustrated. They always want to go back early, and you really have to sit on them, and then you go ahead
because they want to get back to training, right?
Right. Yeah. They want to go back to training. So we do let them get back to some things. We at least get them walking in the gym. At least get them go to the gym. What am I to walk? Really, doc? Yeah. Okay. But basically, it's at least get their heart rate up, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
At least they got their gear on.
Because they have to be active.
They go bananas. So you have to walk that line with those folks between the two and have them have a good solid construct first before hitting it. And we see that. We watch ESPN every night. There's a guy, I had a minor injury, went back too soon, now he's out for the season. Every night on ESPN, same thing.
And for those guys, that's their bread and butter.
They have a literally physical job. That's what they do for a living. And so for us, again, some folks here are Cirque du Soleil performers, okay? Mm-hmm. And they have 10 shows that that better than anybody, 10 shows a week.
Yeah, it's a grind. Yeah.
It is a grind. And so they have to be ready to go ahead and start before they start flipping all over the place and doing all those wonderful things that they do.
Right.
Yeah. Before you have to, put your butt over your head and flippy, you got to make sure that everything is together again.
Yeah. Let's talk about along the same lines, but the psychology of plastic surgery, dealing with patients, trying to figure out where they're coming from, their expectations, which kind of comes back to the breast reduction.
Sure.
Talk to me about how you approach that.
Well, yeah, the thing is we go through the history and physical, et cetera, and then we sort of get into the why. I mean, it's not a therapy session or that kind of thing per se. I don't bust out the therapy book and go, my Freudian theory. But no, it's basically, okay, so, you're thinking about getting implants, blah, blah, blah. So why do you want to go for that particular size? Well, I want to look good in a swimsuit or an evening. Oh, okay, I've had 2 kids and I want to get that back. Oh, okay. So, and again, I work for the patient. I don't work for necessarily, the husband or the sponsor or whatever you want to call it. So, and
it's important to figure out what the motivation is. Yeah.
So, and so there's that aspect to it. And that always helps me as well as to, okay, well, this is kind of what I'm thinking, et cetera, et cetera. And some folks come in with very much a preconceived notion about a few things. For example, there are gals that come in and go, okay, doc, I want a size 400, high profile, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, well, where'd you get this from? Says, well, my girlfriend Susie at the office. And then I, watched a couple YouTube videos and I went on Google. I'm like, okay, wait. Yeah. So now
that's both the good and bad part of social media.
Yeah. Dr. Google's not your friend. And I tell people all the time, I'd rather they spend 20 minutes with me than 20 hours on the internet, right? Because I can look at you. I can see what your skin trigger is like. I can see, folks that have been out in the sun too much or have smoked too much or have done too many steroids or too much or all those sorts of things.
All that stuff.
And really kind of see what works, for them. And that 400cc implant may be the right answer, or they need a bigger one, or maybe a little one, or whatever it may be to go ahead and get to that individual.
Or saline versus silicone.
All of it. And we go ahead and we measure and we talk and I draw pictures on the screens and all that kind of stuff. And so we pride ourselves, we try to pride ourselves on a really good educational consult. And at the end of the consult, I always ask, okay, is there anything else you want to know? And no, you got it. And I said, well, did you get a list? Because sometimes they have these printed lists that come off.
Sure, right.
And she said, no, okay, yeah, we got it.
And I've actually been in a consult with you, well, a couple now actually, and it's great because you are very thorough and you listen. Because a lot of what's the importance actually of doctors listening? Oh, well, because I would assume that you would think that would be a big thing in medical school,
right?
But I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, some stuff is relatively straightforward. If somebody's got, a cancer or a lump or a bump or something, and you can see, oh, that's it's a hernia, and, it's a Tuesday. In my opinion, you still have to be a doctor. You still have to listen. You have to kind of get the background. When did this start and how did this start? And, okay, that's interesting. And then also, by the way, we find stuff. Back up and say that again.
Right.
Oh yeah, no, they just put me on this drug called, and she didn't know the name of it, but she had the bottle in the thing, and she's on Plavix. Well, guess what? That's a blood thinner. We're not going to the operating room. Right. I said, well, why are you on this? He says, well, my heart was racing really fast. I went to the urgent care.
Yeah. Like, ding, ding, ding.
I said, so what did the cardiologist say? Exactly. And they, well, I haven't been to a cardiologist. I'm like, time out.
Yeah,
okay, guess what? Let's refer you to a cardiologist first. It was AFib, and she was fine, and you got that all squared away. Right. But I'm like, whoa. So number one, it's amazing what you learn when you listen, right? And then not only the whys and wherefores, but also is how our patient's going to take care of it. Do they have a support system that can take care of it? If not, can we help provide them with one, et cetera, et cetera? So those are all little aspects that I have my little my antenna up for. Why is this patient coming in?
Right.
Is he or she, it's usually she, a good candidate? How can we get from point A to point B in the best way? And then going forward, is it going to be a good result? And I think I like it.
And what would be the typical red flags for you to actually say, yeah, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to do this.
Well, it depends. I mean, when it comes to that, I really don't have much of an ego, says the board certified plastic surgeon, right? Right. So I try not.
But you don't actually.
I try not to play the prima donna card as much as I guess I should. But anyways, so no, I have zero ego. If somebody comes into the office who's, let's say, rhinoplasty, who somebody's been there 4 or 5 times before, and I take a good look and I look at the nose, et cetera, and I'm like, you know what? It's my litmus test. My litmus test is, what would I tell my wife, right? Or what would I tell my brother or my cousin? Right. And if it's not the same thing, then I'm a charlatan. And that's how I approach what I say in the office. And I'll say that out loud.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great rule of thumb.
If you were my wife, this is what I would tell you. And they kind of look and like, oh, okay. So if it's a redo times 4, nose that's gone, oh, by the way, I had an infection, I had a cancer. Oh yeah, no, I'm happy to go ahead and get them into somebody who has more experience than I do, as far as a lot of the reconstruction folks. So I don't hesitate to go ahead and send people to people that are smarter than I am, which is a lot, or more skilled in a particular area, which is plenty. And so, yeah, I zero hesitation to do that, because I would hope that if I wind up in office, and guess what? We all wind up patients sometimes. Okay, at some point in our lives, we're going to be in a doctor's office, right? Or a family member or whatever. And so, yeah, it's easy for those tables to turn, right? It just takes, a car accident or a diagnosis of cancer or whatever, and, you're on the other side of the table. So for me, I like to think that we do that, and we give the advice that we want to give our family member. And if it ain't me, that's okay. But let me help you get to the guy or gal that's better at that than I am.
Right, because it's all about the patient first.
It's all about the patient. And I tell the medical students, like, if you make the decision based on what's best for the patient, you're going to be okay. So yeah. So with all the other crazy stuff that goes on, and prior authorizations and all the other stuff that has to come with medicine nowadays, if you try to get down to, okay, how is this going to help my patient, then that usually will set you in the right path.
Right. And doctors as patients, that's an interesting topic.
Oh, that's a whole thing. We're the worst.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, we're the worst.
Have you had doctors?
Oh, sure. So yeah. So I've had, everybody. So I've had, well, especially.
I can imagine it's a bit challenging.
So yeah, no. Even in Philadelphia, when you're running around like a crazy person doing trauma and everything else, I mean, just one night, I've taken care of murderers, rapists, a sitting governor, a priest, moms, it's just the whole, every spectrum, because everybody's going to come into the hospital. You just
don't know what's going to.
And everybody comes in the hospital for whatever reason it might be, whether it's, a hot gallbladder, whether it's trauma, whether it's, whoever. And also when I was doing a lot of hospital-based plastic and reconstructive surgery, people have accidents, people have cancers. They need to go ahead and get reconstructed. People, run a table saw over their finger. They need that put back on. So all walks of life and everything else. And I like to think that, again, if you concentrate on the medical issue at hand and do what's best for that, then that's okay. And so you'll come out ahead. Now, sometimes with some high profile patients, there's a little bit more, hand holding or pillow fluffing or that kind of stuff. And that's okay. But for example, classic example, we were on call for the president. This was back in the 90s. and the president was in town. And so we were the designated trauma hospital if, God forbid, the president got shot or something. Okay, fine. And so I was chief resident. And so they said, okay, we're going to make an all-star team together. And I'm like, no. He says, no, you don't put, 5 chief residents on one team. And
it doesn't always work well. Right?
No, it says, no, you want the same guys.
You don't want 5 quarterbacks.
You want every single night. Yeah. Now, I did take the interns out and I put third years on because, okay, that's fine. But basically because they have better hands and all that, there's more experience. But by and large, no, you want the same guys, rock and roll and everything. You don't want the chairman of surgery putting in your central line. Okay. You want the third
the
guy
that does
did
it every day.
10 of them last night.
Right.
Okay. That's the guy you want.
Yeah.
So, and my chairman, he was great, Dr. Roslin. He said that. He says, yeah, no, you don't want me doing that. He says, you want me doing your Whipple. Yeah, you want me doing your big operation. Yeah, that's my jam. He says, but the other stuff, yeah, you want the guys that do it all the time.
Yeah. And part of that too, I mean, like you have a great team in surgery. Everybody's nice. It's relaxed. It's a nice, comfortable atmosphere. Yeah. Building that team, I mean, can take years, right?
Yeah, I'm very, very fortunate. The team I work with now is really, when they know my moves, I know their moves. Mm-hmm. They go out of the way to make sure that the stuff is the stuff I need and where I need it and when I need it, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So yeah. And so, and the main thing is what I've learned over the years is communicate. I text everybody the schedule as soon as I know it. And so the nurse in the OR can run around before I get there 4 days earlier, say, oh gosh, we're out of 3.0 Vicryl. Let me go ahead and order some, so that you're not like, I need a 3.0 Vicryl.
On the same page, right?
And like, where is it? Oh, I didn't know you need it. So yeah, so again, like anything else, communication is the key, and have all the stuff ready to go before you need it. So.
Yeah. And I think, the team aspect, really in anything, not only medicine, but just in life, I always think of people like Richard Branson or Steve Jobs. They built a team. It took years to build, but that's why they're so successful.
Yeah. So, no. And, I thank everybody after every case, and I make sure before I leave the surgery center that I thank them for their day. They look at me like I'm nuts, and the guy pushing them off. And by the way, I used to be the guy pushing them off.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. So we've talked about that. I've been there too.
Yeah. So that's number one. I said, but if the guy pushes them off, doesn't push his mop, I don't get to do a second case.
Right.
So, not if you have a team of
lots of parts and pieces.
Well, to what you just said is I put 11 Tom Brady's on the field, I'll lose every time. Right. So we need one Tom Brady, but then you need a bunch of linemen, and you need guys that'll run down at, 4 speed, catch the darn thing.
Yeah. That they allow the superstars to be superstars because they have a support team behind them. Right. Super important.
Right. So yeah, 100%. So, and the quarterbacks, will tell you, says I'm successful because of my offensive linemen. Now I'm successful because I get 4 seconds in the pocket. I'm successful because I got guys that can catch a ball. So.
Right. And talking about the actually pre-op, that's something you do on your social media, Facebook and Instagram. Is you do videos in the morning before you go into surgery. What was your impetus to do that? Well,
a couple of things. It kind of the night before, and again, the night before is a joke because it's a school night, and so I'm in bed by 9.
Yeah, your schedule never really stops.
So yeah, it's 1, and I review the charts the day before, and I go over everything, and I get in my head, and like a quarterback does. It's like, what do I do with this play? What if they show me this defense? Okay, so what if there's this anomaly? So I go through a plan A and a plan B and a plan C in my head the night before. So that's number 1. And so then number 2 is people want to know, well, what are we doing? And so we just kind of started doing the live stuff so I get up at 5 to be there at 6 to start at 7. So at about 6:15, I guess, because I'm there and I put my new scrubs on and get things a little bit settled. Then I'll say, hey, this is what we're doing today. And again, that's good for me because I also then review the charts and it kind of go over my head.
And it locks you into the focus.
Yeah, and the whole thing. And Tuesdays and Fridays are really the only time that the whole world goes away. Is because I don't answer the phone. Everybody knows me, says, it's Tuesday, Friday. Don't bother. And, even my wife, nobody can get to me while I'm in the operating room because I am focused. It's nice. I only have one thing to do right then.
Right. I would think the mindset would almost be like you're the fighter jet pilot getting in, locking yourself into the.
Right. And so, he only has one thing. The fighter pilot, like you said, he doesn't have to worry about because those guys are officers and they have to run schedules and they have to do all the other kind of stuff they have to do. But in that moment, all you got to do is fly the plane.
Yeah, you're not worried about your phone. You're not worried about
it. Right. So surgeons, that's kind of, our home is it's stressful, but in a different way. Right. And it's cool for us because we can just think about and do just one thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like we say your happy place.
Yeah. So yes, as weird as that
all
is,
the years of
right.
practice to get to there.
So yeah, and then and the happy place also is at home with your wife and at home with family and everything else like that, but a different type of thing.
Absolutely.
But that's the moment that you train for, and that's what you do, and you're hoping that you're helping your patient, and et cetera, et cetera. And so all that rolled into one is that's kind of where you go for all.
Yeah, that's awesome. How can people find you on social media?
Oh yes, we are all over the place.
Speaking of social media,
what a segue! Look at you.
I know. Hey, I'm thinking ahead. It's like surfing.
Smooth, very nice. So we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we are on LinkedIn, YouTube, a lot on YouTube.
There's just so many.
MySpace, we're all over. So basically TikTok now, I think. So yeah, you can't swing your.
So they can look for Las Vegas plastic surgery.
Yeah, so look for Las Vegas plastic surgery or Dr. Jeffrey Roth, and we are there. We do actually look at the stuff. We do actually respond, and so if you have a question, a comment, and anything, please go ahead and write it down and send it to us, and we'll most likely talk about it next time out.
And what's your website address?
So that's the cornerstone of all of this, and that is www, of course, jjrothmd.com. That's JJROTHMD.com. And of course, this broadcast, you've already found us, but tell your friends. We are all over the place on that too, as far as Podbean and Spotify and Apple and all the rest of it.
iHeartRadio, Google, Amazon. And actually, we're one of the first shows added to the new Samsung podcast app, which is in beta testing right now, but it's coming out, and that's going to be a really awesome thing.
Yeah, it's very, very exciting stuff. So again, we appreciate you listening and tuning in. And if you have questions, by all means, let us know, and we'll get them on the show for you.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And please do look for us on all the podcast outlets, and have a great day.
All right. Have a good one. See you soon.
Thank you so much for joining us. For further information, please visit the podcast website link for Dr. Jeffrey Roth. See you next time.